What up? Welcome back. Sober Experience. Wow, wow, wow. Come on. What up, everybody? Welcome back, Sober Experience. Don't forget to like and subscribe on all podcast platforms. Hope you guys are doing well. Don't forget our YouTube page. I don't know. Somebody left me a comment, and I commented. Yeah. Anyway, it's that record is called Sale el Sol, Saleelsol. By the good brother Patchy Man. I guess we're celebrando that, El Conejo Malo, Bad Bunny, is going to be doing the halftime show, which is cool. I don't care who boycotts what. But in the liberal sphere, hold on, let me shut this off. Dog, it's mad hot in my shop right now. It's crazy. Shirt off. Calm yourselves. Anyway, I saw this one of those stupid, very false things that people like to post to just rile other folks up. And it said, and it was one of my homies that, I like this girl. She's cool. We went to school together. And it said something like, all these country singers or something said no to the Super Bowl because allegedly Trump or somebody wanted a moment of silence or something for the guy that got killed. I keep forgetting his name, Charlie Kirk. And I was like, dude, that could not even be possible. I said, and they listed all these country singers, and that they were refusing to play the halftime show because of that. And I'm like, bro, fucking Jay-Z is in charge of the halftime show. He's not picking country singers, Bo. You crazy? This shit has been rap music forever. Since he got that gig. It's been rap music and that's it. Except for the one thing with J-Lo and Shakira. And I'm happy they did that little documentary so you could see how much of a piece of shit J-Lo is, Yeah, she's like, ugh. Anyway, so that's good news. The other good news today, last week or a week ago, my mom and my dad invited me to go to the doctor with my dad. First time ever that they were like, please, would you mind coming? And I'm like, motherfucker. It made me feel good. I was like, okay. But then it's like one of those things where you're almost waiting for you're waiting for your moment to show up and show out. And the truth is nah, I just had to just show up today and just be quiet. And they don't need my input. They need my support. And maybe I ask one or two questions. And it ended up just being me and my dad by ourselves, We had to get an x-ray on his knee. He's got 75-year-old knees, So one of them is going to need a swap. And, but I surrendered. I was in there listening to an old man, be an old man at the doctor. It's crazy, But I did well. And then on top, I surrendered myself to the day. I'm like, dude, whatever this guy wants to do, we're going to do, you know? And but there was points of aggravation, but, I didn't succumb to them. And even he's like, I want to buy you but we're going to get a burger when we're done. We'll get a burger and some fries. And I'm like, dude, I don't eat that shit. In my mind, I'm like, bro, that shit sounds like fucking, ugh, But I was like, all right. I'll eat the burger. I'll eat the fries, whatever, man. It's cool. And just to really let myself go. And it felt good. I mean, the burger's still sitting in my stomach as I'm sipping on the water. Yeah. And it was good. I don't know, maybe he wanted to be a dad and buy his kid a burger and a Coke and some fries. And who the freak am I to or what spiritual principle is it that I would be following that would not allow him to do that? You know what I'm saying? It's like, I can't wait for the time where I could tell him, no, I only eat steak and eggs and salad. And it's got to be grass-fed. And I was like, yo, bro, it's whatever. This is a place you like? Cool, we order from there. Liberty Burger. I ain't going to lie, it was pretty good. The fries came with a dusting of fresh garlic, which was freaking awesome. And a little bit of spices. It was dope. Yeah, I enjoyed myself. I'm sure I'll poop it all out later on or whatever. Anyway, so that was my day. I got to be of service. I got good guys working for me. Everybody pulled their weight. We got busy weeks coming along. Holiday seasons are coming. We'll see how that's going to unfold, and that's that, man. I'm really turning a corner in a lot of things. Shout out to my boy Anthony, who celebrated 4 years back of sobriety yesterday at Greenwood. It was fantastic. And there was an old guy, Mike, I think, who also celebrated. My boy Jimmy was one of the speakers who I thoroughly enjoyed deeply. Yeah, the guy's I think he's either training or he should be training to become one of those circuit speakers. You guys are my circuit. I do that. Anyway, so that's where we're at with it. Yeah. Okay, so what's on the agenda? Busting out, again, the step work that we were doing before my freaking sabbatical. And we were in the middle or towards the end of the fourth step, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. You know what I mean? So it's hard because I marked up this book everywhere. Yeah. And I don't know if I did the sexual inventory. I don't know if I did that. It's tough. But I'm looking at where my, relationships, this kind of thing. I guess we'll start there and then we'll finish out the rest of the chapter. And I'll disclose things in a general way as to not disrespect my current situation, So here we go. Sex. This is a very uncomfortable area for most of us. In fact, we may be tempted to stop here thinking, okay, this has gone far enough. There is no way I'm cataloging my sexual behavior. But we have to get over such unwillingness quickly. Thinking about the reason why we need to do this should help. As it says in It Works, How and Why, it's a different book, we want to be at peace with our own sexuality. That's why we need to include our sexual beliefs and behaviors in our inventories. It is important to remind ourselves at this point that we are not taking inventory to compare ourselves with what we think is quote unquote normal for others, but only to identify our own values, principles, and morals. I'm already shaking. All right, here we go. How was my sexual behavior based in selfishness? Woof. Yeah. I don't know. It was selfish in this way that maybe, I don't know. Maybe I thought that if I was a good partner, then somebody would ignore all of my other deficiencies. And my immature brain used to believe that a long time ago. Yeah. So maybe I felt like, maybe I behaved like I cared, but it was really just so, you know, so I could get my own way in maybe some other area. I don't know. It doesn't really sound like it makes sense, but it makes sense to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I knew that most of my life I was like a dirtball. But maybe in my feeble brain, I thought that, oh, well, if women thought, well, at least maybe he's, you know, half a good lay in the sack. You know, he's worth something. You know? And that's just, I mean, it's very immature, inexperienced thinking and behavior. You know? But, yeah. So there's that. Okay, have I confused sex with love? What are the results of acting on this confusion? Nope. That I never did. Have I used sex to try and avoid loneliness or fill a spiritual void? No. Maybe not on purpose. I mean, I did abstain. I took like a 6-month hiatus once, but I don't know. I always had something around, you know, for the most part of my life. It's just the way that I was. I didn't like to be alone. So yeah, I guess to avoid loneliness. That's true. Fill a spiritual void? I'm not sure. You know, I'm not sure. All right, hang tight for a second. Hold on 1 second. Oh, my God. Okay, sorry about that. We're back. That was like a text that I needed to address. Okay. Loneliness. Yeah, I guess that was it. In what ways did I compulsively seek or avoid sex? Ooh, compulsively seek. I didn't really have that compulsion. You know, I just didn't. Yeah. Avoid? Never. Never. You know? No. But, yeah, that's it, really. That doesn't really apply to me. Have any of my sexual practices left me feeling ashamed and guilty? What were they, and why did I feel that way? Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some stuff where, you know, you think you want to try something, and when you're done trying it, you're like, oh, that shit was fucking whack. You know? Yeah, like that was whack. Like I shouldn't have did that. You know? There was only really one time where I thought that I compromised myself. You know? And that was it. And but that was only once. But the other times, like, you know, you're just, you know, you're a young person and you're like figuring stuff out. And you're like, maybe I like this, or maybe they will like this, or maybe we talk about this, and, you know, maybe we don't talk about this. I don't know. You know, why did I feel that way? I don't know why I felt that way. But I just know that, like, all right, I'm not going to do that anymore because it just doesn't make me feel good about myself, regardless of what the other person may want to feel like. Like, I don't feel good behaving like that. So if that's what you want to do, that's whatever. And I've definitely said no. All right, that I'm not going to do. That I've definitely done. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, so there's that. Okay. Let's see. Have my sexual practices hurt myself or others? Yeah. Yeah. It's like there's no, what's the saying? There's no right way to do the wrong thing. So technically, you may try to, I'm in a much different space with the love of my life and my heart and everything now that it's not hard to relive these things because they're so far removed from where I am, but it's hard to like try to think, what the hell was I thinking? I know I was just behaving selfishly most of my life where like, okay, if I'm dating somebody and we're technically not like quote unquote together, that doesn't mean that they don't like me. And that doesn't mean that I have the freedom to do what I want because like, she's not my girl, I'm not her man or whatever. Like, what's wrong is wrong. Like if somebody, basically I had to learn that if somebody likes me more than I like them, I need to leave them alone, actually. Not like set these boundaries. Well, right now we're just talking or we're just seeing each other or we're just seeing what's going on. I remember my old sponsor, Free Willy, like he told me, he's like, bro, he says, everything changes. He says, you could date as many women as you want. That's your prerogative. You want to date 3 at a time, whatever. But like you start sleeping with more than one woman at a time, that's fucking like, I guess if that's who you want to be, okay. But, that ain't really it. You know what I'm saying? Especially if one of them likes you. It's a gray area. It's not, because you're not going to sit down with a woman and be like, listen, just so you know, I'm also doing this other stuff. And maybe she won't tell you either, but it doesn't matter who she is. It matters who you are. That's what I had to learn. It matters who I am. Who do I want to be? Do I want to be a story that somebody else says that like, yeah, I really like this guy. And, we hooked up a couple of times and, but I couldn't, not that I couldn't get him to commit or whatever. Like I'll be the fucking villain. And listen, a lot of these women, none of them are damsels in distress. But at the same time, there has to be some integrity in the way that I'm trying to behave. And, it's just something that I had to learn. But I've been with my wife a long time. So there's that. And, it's just been me and her. That's it. Let me see. Am I uncomfortable with my sexuality? If not, why not? I am definitely not uncomfortable with my sexuality. Sometimes I'm uncomfortable having conversations with my own spouse about sex. Like she makes fun of me. She's like, as soon as I bring something up about this or about something sexual, like, bro, I go into fucking panic mode. I go into full panic mode because I'm scared. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm scared that, like, you say the wrong thing during one of those. None of those, in my experience, none of those conversations ever come out really fruitful. You say the wrong thing to a fucking Puerto Rican woman from the South Bronx, bro. She'd be like, what? You like that? Or whatever. This is the fear. What? You like that? How many of these bitches did that with you? Blah, 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 blah. It turns into all of that. They're like, I don't have space for that. It just pours water. So, but I have to learn how to be more open about that kind of stuff because it's actually starting to annoy her a little bit. Because my wife is actually a fucking grown-up. Where the last thing I want to hear or even think about is somebody else with their hands on my woman. So that's another reason why I avoid those conversations. I don't want to think about that, and I don't want to think about her enjoying any of that, So it's just better to just kind of find another way to disarm the bomb for me. Is sex a prerequisite in all or most of my relationships? No. No, I mean, I have again, I have a different space in my life, but even almost all my whole life, until I got sober and until years of my sobriety, aside from my friends that are sober, like my sober sisters, I have, 5 or 8 of them or whatever, really 3. Otherwise, I would never be friends with a woman ever. It's not, I don't have any friends that are, it's not part of my personality. It's just not. What does a healthy relationship mean to me? Oh my God, it means everything to me. It's what I have now, which is a lot of forgiveness, meaning that, not that there's all this line crossing, but a lot of understanding that we're both evolving, that kind of stuff. And my wife allows me to be who I am. That is the most important thing. I get to be exactly who I am in front of my wife. Minus like the vulgarity is down 60%. And I save the rest of that for just me and the boys, because boys say stupid things because we like to say stupid things because we're stupid, but they're offensive. And so aside from that, I get to be 100% who I am, which means I get to make my weird little noises skipping around the house. You know what I'm saying? I get to eat my weird fucking vitamins, and I get to be into all the things that I'm into. And there's nothing that goes on in my life that my wife doesn't know about, or that I wouldn't share with her. And there's yet to be anything that she wouldn't allow me to do, So there's that. Okay. Whew. Okay, here we go. Next section. Abuse. We must exercise extreme caution before beginning this section. In fact, we may need to postpone this section for a later time in our recovery. We should utilize all the resources at hand to make the decision about whether to begin this section now. Our own sense of whether or not we're ready to withstand the pain of this work will cause us discussion with our sponsor and prayer. Perhaps our sponsor will be able to help us through this, or we may need to seek additional help. If we decide to go ahead in this section, we should be aware that working on this area of our 4th step will probably be the most painful work we'll do in recovery. Recording times when we were neglected or hurt by people who were supposed to love and protect us is certain to cause some of the most painful feelings we will ever have to go through. It is important to do so when we are ready. However, as long as we keep the pain wrapped inside us a secret, it may cause us to act in ways we don't want, or it can contribute to a negative self-image or other destructive beliefs. Getting the truth out begins a process that can lead to the relief of our pain. We were not to blame. Okay. Have I ever been abused? By whom? What feelings did I or do I now have about it? I don't even know how to really clearly answer this question. Not getting my own way felt like abuse when I was a kid. Now, also when I was a kid, we were hit a lot. And that's the truth. It was a different time. Did I deserve to be hit? Likely. I was hard to love, and I was a difficult, snotty, spoiled little brat to my parents and to mostly my parents and to other people who love me. But, back then you could get hit by all my aunts and uncles. They could all hit you. It didn't matter, So that kind of, if you say that's abuse, okay. I don't really have an opinion on it, to be honest with you. I also don't want to be one of these. I don't want to be in a position where, like, I didn't feel like I was abused or neglected in that way, because the amount of attention and the amount of love that I needed or that I need, it doesn't exist on this earth. That's how, when I'm honest with myself, that's how needy I am. Like, I have this this freaking volcano boiling inside of me that would sometimes tell me that I don't matter enough and I need to do something. Somebody needs to hold me. Somebody needs to hug, like all this other shit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I don't know. I have to be honest with myself. Like, listen, I was always fed. And this is just my story. I was always fed. I always had a roof over my head. I was always scared of everybody. My parents never really abandoned me. You know, we had a little bit of a crossfire when my son was born. And that was, you know, that was that. Where, like, they didn't really have anything to do with him, with my son, until he was about 4 or 5, until I straightened my act out. You know? But if they didn't do that, who knows? I definitely wouldn't be where I'm at, and I definitely wouldn't have had to. I made different choices but I still made those choices. I could have made other choices than the ones I made. Like, I went down a really crazy path as far as, like, trying to justify, you know, supporting I was basically a 10th grader with a freaking baby, you know? So, and in the beginning I was an addict and an alcoholic. So I had I had to live that kind of life in the gray area in order to make stuff happen. And I stayed on that path all the way until I cleaned up. But that was my choice to take that path. What's the other path? I could have stayed in school. I could have done the right thing. I could have used my smarts and my, I don't know the right word. I'm eloquent. Whatever that means. I could have used that to my advantage and maybe went to college. And when I was a kid, I wanted to become like a plastic surgeon. So I wanted to fix people. I always thought that was cool or whatever. But John Barleycorn, a.k.a. Mad Dog 2020, had other plans. Yeah, so it's hard to say. The perspective is like everybody could have done better. So I don't know if it's really abuse or neglect. Yeah. That's really it's really all I'm willing to even really say. Okay. Has being abused affected my relationships with others? How? Yeah, because I thought that was the way to be. If you want to call that, just being rough and tough love is not, tough love is life is tough enough. But like to bludgeon somebody when you're right is that's abusive. And I used to do that. And even up until maybe, I don't know, a few years ago, that was part of my personality, was to be that way. I couldn't wait to just tell everybody what to do. Meanwhile, I wasn't in a position to tell anybody anything. And I would collect people that, and I learned this, I guess from my dad was this way. My dad collects people that can be dependent on him in some way, so that way he can abuse them. And in some ways in my life I did that. And it's fucking whack. It's whack to talk down to somebody you love. It's even more whack to think down about somebody you love. It's been a long time since I've been like that. But I'm thinking about that now, and it fills me with shame. And not guilt and shame. Definitely remorse. I could always be better. And I just live for that. Especially with my wife. I just live for her. I already have everything. I have God. I have peace. I have you guys. My wife has more than me. But it's like I can't wait to be closer to her. And that's what I try and do. And I can only do that by becoming a better human. And which means sometimes I have to remember where I fucking came from. Some of the times that I talked down to her. She didn't take it lightly. Trust me when I tell you. Yeah. She's no pushover. I promise. She's quiet. But, oof, brother, she don't let nobody push her around. She doesn't. Yeah, it's the best. Okay. Have I felt victimized for much of my life because of being abused in childhood? What steps can I take to be restored to my spiritual wholeness? Can my higher power help, and how? Okay, what's the first? If I felt victimized or being abused in my childhood, what steps can I take to be restored to spiritual wholeness? The steps I could take is recognizing my patterns that have been replicating that, that I was replicating that in areas of my life, whether it's a little bit with my kid, with other people, with people who worked for me, people who loved me, with my parents. When you get to, it's like the best and worst day of your life when you realize that, you can beat up your dad. You can't wait for that day when you're a kid. It's like, I just can't wait till I can just fucking beat this motherfucker's ass, Every demand, instruction from them feels like a demand. It feels like oppression, And I understand why they were a little bit rough about some things, because things that I was not rough about with my two, they one and they two, that's part of the reason why they're, playing all these away games now. But that's okay. My wife actually reminded me I did something, and I was surprised. I was like, I don't remember doing that, but she said I did this, and it bothered them. And I was like, okay. Where like the older one was supposed to pick up the little one from school and just didn't do it, and went home and just, I guess, took a nap, smoked some pot, went to sleep, and the little one was stuck, crying at fucking school. So I run over there, grab the little one, I come home, I take a glass of water, and I throw it on the other one. Like, bro, you left little boo at school. You fucking crazy? We ask you to do one thing. Personally, I don't think that's abusive. Personally, I think leaving the kid at school so you can get high and take a nap is abusive, especially because, when kids are little like that, it's probably traumatic. It starts that conversation in their brain that people are going to forget about me, that I don't matter, that they're going to leave me behind, that they love me. Meanwhile, my little one, I would never say no to on this earth, like, for anything. I have to draw some boundaries now because, they're out of the house and they need to learn how to grow up. And I don't want them to, but they want to. They rang a bell, so I'm like, okay. And it's sad. But it's like, bro, otherwise I'm not doing... I have to give them to God, man. And God is going to make them who they will become, which is their greatest self. It ain't going to be because of me. It'll be because of my... I wouldn't say inaction, but if I don't participate, then they'll find out what they're made of. And that's that, So yeah, recognizing my own behavior as a somewhat mirror of some of the things that affected me negatively, that helped get me closer to God, and because I needed God to change those behaviors. Like, I know that they were effective. Some of those actions and attitudes. Sometimes yelling is effective. Guess what? Sometimes it is. You know what I'm saying? When a person his brain is so little that they can't understand reasoning, then I better not do this shit because I'm going to get yelled at, is sometimes good enough to keep them out of trouble. Because they don't understand consequences, because they don't understand consequential thinking. They just know, yo, if I leave my little sister again at the school, I'm going to get a fucking cup of water in my face when I'm sleeping. Instead of like, oh, look at, you're going to be part of a chain of trauma that this little kid is going to feel. And who knows how they're going to react to that. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to be so militant, diligent, whatever. But that's why we asked you to do it, because you had such a small amount of things on your plate versus your mama and me. So there's that. Anyway, can my higher power help? Absolutely. How? Oh, by injecting him in between me and what I feel to be the right thing. You know, I have this like impulsive thing where like, no, it's got to be this way because, you know, yeah, without allowing space for somebody to figure out 50% of it on their own. Even if that means work, because I used to have this conversation like, oh, if I'm going to be the one sweeping up behind you, I got to be in control. That's, you know, is that really it? You know what I'm saying? That just makes fertile ground for resentment, anger, fear, you know, bad attitudes. Not giving them enough credit, like whether, like, let's say it's my workers, like they can't do it on their own. I got to be behind them all the fucking time. Or especially, again, with my kids. You know, it's like paranoia. And not even paranoia that they're going to get something wrong. Paranoia that I'm going to have to stop what I'm doing and fucking fix the shit that they did, even though I told them not to do that. You know? But guess what? That's what being a good human is. Like, how easy is it for someone to apologize to me, even without apologizing? Just acknowledging. I have to make that easy for other people. That's my goal. And I get closer to God and I get closer to them by being that person. Not, I motherfucking told you to not get a basement apartment because that's where all the bugs is at. And now you're gonna have to fucking suffer. Come on. You know? But, you know, you gotta let them learn too. Bugs ain't gonna kill you. This is New York City. You know? Yeah. Okay. Moving on. Where are we? Okay. It is also possible that we have physically, mentally, verbally abused others. Yes. Recounting these times is bound to cause us to feel a great deal of shame. We cannot afford to let that shame become despair. It is important that we face our behavior, accept responsibility for it, and work to change it. Writing about it here is the first step toward doing that. Working the rest of the steps will help us make amends for what we have done to others. Have I abused anyone? Who and how? Yeah, I just gave you all these instances where, you know, I behaved in an abusive manner. What was I feeling and thinking right before I caused harm to them? Same thing. I got to sweep up behind you and blah, blah, blah. Or finally I get to be right, you know. Do I blame my victim or make excuses for my behavior? No, not anymore. Do I trust my higher power to work in my life and provide me with what I need so I don't have to harm anyone again? Yes. That is an emphatic yes. I don't have to take from anybody for me to have what I need. I just need to be who I am. And life provides. Am I willing to live with the spirit, with the painful feelings until they're changed through working the steps? Yes. Some shit you just got to live with. And that's just how it goes. Okay. Moving on. Oh, man. Sorry, I got to turn these pages, Bo. Okay. Whew, that was a tough two fucking bang bang. All right, but we got to finish this up. We only got a couple of more things. Okay, assets. Most of the preceding questions have been directed at helping us identify the exact nature of our wrongs. Information we'll need for the fifth step. Excuse me. It is also important that we take a look at things that we've done right and that we've had a positive impact on ourselves and others. We want to do this for a couple of reasons. First, we want to have a complete picture of ourselves from working the fourth step, not a one-sided picture. Second, we want to know what character traits and behaviors we want more in our lives. Okay, what qualities do I have that I like? I've become a good listener. I've still got to work at it, but I've become a good listener, not just somebody who's just quiet. That others like. What about me? The others like. Yeah, that I'm a good friend, and that I'm patient. People have said that to me. Obviously, that I'm funny, and I'm somewhat and that I'm reliable. I've become reliable, and not in a bad way. Like, people can rely on me, not like, I've been reliable for all the wrong reasons either. But what qualities do I like? What do others like that work well for me? The thing that I'm still struggling with now is also just, a little bit, but I've been really working on it, allowing things to develop more before. Like, I don't have to put the whole sandwich on the table at once. I can put it a crumb at a time, and give people the space to be where they are. And then just have faith that if I'm meant to be here, I'll be here. If I'm not, I'm not. But with this person, place, or situation or thing. But that's the thing. How have I shown concern for myself and others? Let me see. That's another question. How have I shown concern? Well, I take my health very seriously. I take the program very seriously. My emotional and mental well-being very seriously. And I do this honestly just so I could be the best human that I could be for everybody else. So it's a win-win for everybody. That is the absolute truth. When I always talk about my wife, I want to be the best husband that I can be. I want to be one of the best people she knows. That treats her well, that admires her, that treats her with dignity and respect, regardless of the situation. Even if we're angry, dignity and respect. You know what I mean? What spiritual principles am I practicing in my life? And how has doing so changed my life? The spiritual principles, man, I just want to, I'm just being free. That's it. I'm just being free. Free to do the right thing, regardless of how I think it may come out on my end. Yeah. I don't have any boundaries between me. I'm not protecting myself. I don't wake up in the morning and be like, what could I do to help my family today? I don't have those thoughts anymore. It's like, what can I do to just be a good person today to everybody that I come in contact with, whether it's on the phone, on email, in person, walking past people in the street. How do I show others that maybe God exists? If there's somebody like me walking around, and it's genuine, and I really mean it, because I get the benefit of being that person. It's a beautiful life. I don't ever really have to mind my business in that way. That's wild. How has my faith and trust in a higher power grown? It's only grown through pain and the pain of letting go of old ideas and old behaviors. And I don't know what's on the other side, so I just pretend that it's God, and it's always been great when I let go of old behaviors and old behaviors and then old ideas. Like, I could do a new behavior and still have an old idea, and then eventually that idea will change. So that's how that goes. What is my relationship with my sponsor based on? Oof, man, Yariv, who is my current sponsor. It's based on our love for God, for spirituality, for growth, for evolution of our emotional selves. That's literally it. How do I see a positive experience translating into other relationship? You know, I try to just only fuck with people who are on the same path as me. There are other people who are in my orbit, but they're not on the same path as me, and they just stay in my orbit. They're not in the circle because I only have limited bandwidth, you know? What goals have I accomplished? Oh, man, so many. I didn't even have a goal to become a better person. It just happened as a result of me trying to build something with my life, trying to be a good dad, whatever, but also building my business. It's a big thing. When people, they don't understand, bro. People who just have a regular job, no offense to them, they don't know what it takes, who you have to become in order to really make something happen. Not to just, I have a business where people hire me to do things. No, to be able to create jobs and cash flow and economic situations for other people in a fair way. Bro, you don't even know who you have to become to make that happen. Because you think it's one way, that, if I just do this, then they'll do this. I had a worker who worked for me, and I didn't even know how bad I was treating them because I was just paying them really well. They were making a bunch of money. And I remember it was right after like Thanksgiving. I just gave this kid like $1,800 fucking bonus. That was like on a Wednesday. By the next Monday, he had the nerve to sit me down in my office and telling me how fucking rude I've been and how bossy I've been and how nasty I've been to them and all this other stuff. And I couldn't fucking believe it. That the money that I'm like, dude, I just basically gave you like $2,000. Not gave you. That's the thing in my mind. At that time, I thought I gave him. Like, no, he earned that. You know? And that's who you have to change your outlook. And that's why in my company, the employees come first. They come before me. They come before everybody. They come before the customers. Too fucking bad. I hire good people and I only work with good people. If somebody's not good, I don't care how good they are at their job. If they're not a good person, they are fucking gone. Now, everybody has their derelictions and their shortcomings, but nobody's accused any of my people of stealing from them or they steal from me, but they don't steal from the cost. Any of this stuff. It's always been a very positive experience with them. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Moving on. Do I have other goals that I'm taking action to reach? Oh, yeah. Definitely. And these are all things. Our life is turning a corner. We're empty nesters, and Emily and I are making, we have basically in my mind, I'm saying this is like a 3-year plan. We're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do this, and then our whole life is going to be different. And I'm excited for that because all I'm doing is trying to, set everything up in a nice way, comfortably, where we just have more free time and she's comfortable. What are my values? Walking through fear. I guess you can call that being courageous. Everybody's scared. I get scared all the time. But to walk through it, even if I'm a little bit late and if I got to clean up some stuff afterwards, there's nothing that I'm not really willing to face. Yeah, there's that. Which ones am I committed to, living by, and how? Me being as honest as I can be. Just being fully honest. How am I showing my gratitude for my recovery? That everything in my life begins and ends with that. Without recovery, without program, I don't have God. Without God, I don't have, and I need God to help me to do everything. And I need you guys to help me to do everything. So there's that. Oh, man. Last section. Secrets. Before we finish this step, we should stop and reflect. Is there anything we missed, either intentionally or not? Is there anything we think is so bad that we just can't possibly include it in our inventory? If so, we should be reassured that the fact that a multitude of recovery members have worked this step, and there's never yet been a situation in anyone's fourth step that is so unique that we had to create a new term to describe it. Keeping secrets is threatening to our recovery. As long as we are keeping a secret, we are actually building a reservation in our program. Are there any secrets I haven't written about yet? What are they? No. I answer these questions and I do all this stuff in real time. So there's nothing I'm really purposefully like keeping away. Now there's stuff that I can't get into detail because I'm trying to share like in a general way, because people who listen to this, you know, they know what they know and they know who they know, you know, and those who know, they fucking know. You know what I'm saying? And there's that. I don't need to name names like in public like this. But with my sponsor, and if I was doing this with somebody else, 100%. You know? Another question we should ask ourselves now, is there anything in this inventory that is either an exaggeration, or what actually happened, or something that is not true at all? No. Not that I can remember from all these episodes. Most of us had accumulated war stories that were so embroidered that they may have contained only a fraction of truth. We made them up because we wanted to impress people. We didn't think we had anything to feel good about that was true, so we made up lies in an attempt to build ourselves up. But we don't have to do that anymore. We're building a true self-worth in the process of working step 4. Not a false self-worth based on some phony image. Now is the time to tell the truth about ourselves. Is there anything in this inventory that isn't true? Or any stories I've told over and over again that aren't true? I'm sure there's plenty in my life. Yes. I don't really tell them anymore. And I catch myself like, oh, bro, you about to lie about this thing again? And I just say a prayer and I don't do it. Or if I do it again, I'm like, oh, you just played yourself again. You know, like a fucking, you know, we're a work in progress. Okay, moving on. Finishing the 4th step is many things. May be a letdown, may be exhilarating, may be uncomfortable. However, we feel otherwise. We should definitely feel good about what we've accomplished. The work we've done in this step will provide the foundation for the work we'll do in steps 5 through 9. Now is the time to contact our sponsor and make arrangements to work step 5. Okay. So we just finished that. I have yet to go through what this book says about the 5th step. But the 5th step is basically just me reading all the stuff that I just did with yous. So I kind of just did a 5th step with you guys, you know, over the course of the last few months. And maybe I'll take a look at that stuff, and if there's anything else that I need to address, then if not, we did it. And I'm going to, you know, we'll go on to the 6th step next time. We can start that, you know. On another note, you know, I hope all you guys are doing well. And I'm happy to be back, you know. I'm happy I make the time. I get scared now. It's just like, you know, should I be doing this? Should I be just running home? Should I, you know, no. I enjoy this very much. I enjoy all of you very much. And I missed you very much. So like and subscribe on all podcast platforms, The Sober Experience. Check us out on YouTube on that page, The Sober Experience. You'll see my happy mug on there. And I will see you guys on the flip side. Peace.